Hi, I'm Richard-Yeager Stiver, the pastor at Grosse Pointe Congregational Church. I want to welcome you to our Sunday worship service. Here is our sermon, and following our sermon is information as to how you can attend our Zoom services in the future and how to give online. We only make these ministries possible through the gifts that you give. Thank you. This will be our second year that COVID has impacted our holiday season and caused us to think creatively and do our family traditions differently, which incredibly is what Christmas is all about. At its core, Christmas is about doing and seeing things differently. It is about seeing our world in new and unexpected ways. At its beginnings, Christmas changed people and changed the world. Christmas encouraged persons to adapt and adopt an outside-the-box approach to life. As it does this, Christmas shatters our expectations and pushes us outside the box so that our preconceived notions are blown away about how things are supposed to work. Christmas helps us see things differently, like a hug between Mary and Elizabeth as a meeting that takes place between Jesus and John, and a kick in the belly becomes the first fist bump of recognition. The song of praise becomes a celebration of God's ability to turn the world upside down and right side up. Christmas effectively draws us toward the God of creation who thinks creatively and thinks outside the box. This creative God we worship seems to enjoy that the proud are scattered in the thoughts of their hearts, that the powerful are brought down from their thrones, and the lowly are lifted up as they are filled with good things. All of this begins with the creative out-of-the-box thinking as seen as Mary's adventure begins when she leaves Nazareth and Galilee and goes with haste to a Judean town in the hill country. She has just received a message from a mysterious visitor, the angel Gabriel. The Holy Spirit will come upon you, says Gabriel, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore, the child to be born will be holy, and he'll be called the Son of God. In this announcement from Gabriel, Mary will be the mother of the Son of Man, who is the Son of God. And Gabriel knows this message is unusual and shatters preconceived notions held by Mary about how pregnancies happen. And this news will be hard to accept. So he offers her an illustration of how nothing will be impossible with God. He tells Mary that her relative Elizabeth has conceived a son, even though she was thought to be too old to have children. So Mary travels from Galilee to Judea and enters the house of Zechariah and Elizabeth. And when Elizabeth hears Mary's greeting, her child leaps in her womb. And therefore, as we heard, Elizabeth cries out, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." With this strange scene clearly, God is working in some surprising and powerful ways. Elizabeth's baby senses the presence of Mary's baby, and he shows his happiness by leaping for joy within the womb. And in that moment, both women discover the truth of what God is doing in their lives and has the potential for doing in our world, which is essentially this. God says to Elizabeth and Mary, "Free your mind and believe that I am doing amazing things through you." Responding to this joyful news, Mary offers a song of praise, singing, "My soul magnifies the Lord." In this way, Mary acknowledges that she's just a teenage girl whose status in the world is in a low position, a bottom rank, and an unimpressive place. Yet, she has received God's favor. And this becomes the great reveal. Mary recognizes that pain and suffering of our world can veil God's activity. Yet Gabriel reveals that God has looked upon her with favor, just as God looks with favor on us. The surprising truth of our faith is that God favors us, even though we've done nothing to deserve this approval and support. When God favors us, God is offering us the gift of peace and grace. Episcopal priest Justin Holcomb says that grace is the love of God shown to the unlovely, the peace of God given to the restless. This is the unmerited favor of God. Unmerited favor shown to Mary and Elizabeth and shown to us. We don't earn it and we don't deserve it. All we can do is accept it. When we see through faith what God has ordained, we discover the amazing truth that God looks with favor on us and freely offers us forgiveness, love, mercy, and peace. Reverend Holcomb goes on to say, we live in a world of earning, deserving, and merit, and these result in judgment. But this world is really just an illusion. The truth is that God is acting to replace judgment with grace, and the result of that is new life. Yet, as long as we choose to live under the thumb of this corrupt human-made system of judgment, the human race will never be free. But when we destroy this illusion and allow ourselves to be merciful and loving toward others as God is merciful and loving of us, then we will recognize that everyone is indeed forgiven and loved and freed. We pass forward God's mercy to others. The truth of our faith is that God has looked with favor on us. Accepting this profound truth, we are able to be filled with good things and receiving God's mercy. We recall God's promise made to our ancestors, to Abraham and to his descendants forever. In this world that is focused purely on profits before people, the powerful retain their thrones as they keep the lowly oppressed. The hungry scrounge for food, while the rich have leftovers that go bad in their refrigerators. But Mary shatters this worldview as she praises God for turning the world upside down and righteous side up, as God brings down the powerful and lifts up those in need, sending the rich away empty while feeding the hungry. This declaration turns the world upside down and breaks traditions and customs. Surely this is the work of God. Back in the first century, it was assumed that material wealth was a sign of God's favor, while poverty signaled divine displeasure. And if we're honest, we do the same today, whether we practice prosperity theology or simply pass judgment on people who ask for handouts. But Mary questions this worldview, saying that God's mercy is for those who fear the Lord, not for those who have the biggest bank account. Bringing her song to a big finish, Mary sings that this surprising work of God isn't entirely unexpected. She switches to a higher octave as she excitedly declares that God has helped his servant Israel, and in remembrance of his mercy, according to the promise he made to our ancestors, to Abraham and to his descendants forever. But God's actions may seem unexpectedly surprising. Mary reveals that the reality of God's turning the world upside down is grounded in God's mercy and according to the promise made to our ancestors. She reveals that the things God is reversing are earthly, not heavenly. Mary's song suggests that we should get creative and constructive, seeing things not for what they are, but what they might be. Seeing the world differently, we too see Christmas gifts both given and received with joy. Zoom visits with family and friends, which can be stressful and uncomfortable, yet enjoyable. That's the way it is. And thankfully, Mary invites us to see things differently and to find true joy in this season in God, recognizing we are favored by God, even as we are surrounded by COVID. And even though we experience heartbreak with the separation of family and friends, still, we can create something new. Thankfully, Mary declares that we will do something new because God loves us. And God's affection has nothing to do with our achievements, our job security, our bank accounts, or even our marital status. In fact, this surprising insight of Mary's song is that God looks with favor on the lowly state of the people. She announces that God favors us in our lowliness, our humility, and our simple willingness to lean on God. And that's the good news for all of us, especially in this year of an ongoing pandemic. And this remains good news in a world that doesn't seem to care about each other, cheapening the death of each other as our world continues to be filled with violence in a world filled with an uncertain future. Thankfully, in this difficult nature of our world, God favors us and promises to remain with us. Mary announces God's mercy is for those who fear God from generation to generation, and that God will never abandon us. This is image breaking, expectation shattering, radically assuring, and that's not all. According to Mary, with these new insights into our personal relationship with God, we also recognize that we are included in the participation of what God is doing in the world. This means we get to sign up to work with Mary's son as we lift up the lowly and fill the hungry with good things. Mary's song is a declaration, writes Scott McKnight in the publication Christianity Today, a declaration from a voice at the bottom of society. It is a voice crying from the depths that God's Messiah was finally bringing justice for the poor and those treated unfairly, for those who are seeking justice and righteousness. It is a voice proclaiming a new order centered on Mary's son, the one who's coming into our world with righteousness, holiness, and justice. So part of our Christmas journey has to involve taking our customs and traditions and allowing them to be altered so we see the world as it could be. We're able to join Jesus in working for a better world, one in which the powerful are held accountable and the powerless are given support and opportunity. Each of us has a role to play, whether we're expressing our values, helping a poor family find affordable housing, or even opening our lives to immigrants to our country, which, by the way, is one of the reasons I love that we support our outreach for Samaritas, that we're able to reveal that God favors all people, and we're able to share that love and acceptance with others by focusing our energy to shape our communities into becoming the communities that God calls us to create, one of opportunity and justice for all. Yet Christmas is all about seeing what might be instead of what is. That's what Elizabeth did when she welcomed an unwed mother with joy. That's what Mary did when she rejoiced in God's favor. And that's what Jesus did when he revealed that within us is the Spirit of God, that we ought to take care of each other, for in effect, we take care of God. Mary tells us that God looks with favor on us, lifts up the lowly, and brings down the powerful. Recognizing what could be, we are invited to focus our energy into working with God to transform the world as we embrace the light of Christ, which reveals incredible wonders. So then let us work with God to renovate this current world into one that seeks God's righteousness as we embrace what Christmas means, which is this: a season of new realities made possible because of the baby named Jesus, who is full of grace and truth and delivers unexpected world-transforming outcomes. This Christmas, expect the unexpected as God enters our lives and transforms our world.